Hey everybody, this is Perch. I want to talk about outrage. Okay, so outrage is it's a funny thing. It's a weapon that I think it's wielded a lot these days. I think in the real key to outrage being a massive factor in finance, in moving stock, moving money, moving attention, moving viewers. It needed easy accessibility. You can get people angry about things, but in the end, if you go back to the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, there wasn't really an effective social media. There wasn't effective communication. So you could get people angry, but it was hard to really know what that meant. So, for example, if a comic creator did something weird or a comic was bad or, there's something that really got people wound up. And, a good example of this might be the Heroes Reborn. And by the way, there's a lot of people have rewritten history for their own ends, a lot on Heroes Reborn. But basically, you had the Avengers, you had, to some extent, the Fantastic Four, but really the Avengers in a state where dog shit is kind of a nice way to describe where the comics were at during that period of time. I always go back to this because it's one of those things that I think sums it up better than anything. The Wasp, Janet Van Dyne, had turned into an actual kind of alien wasp creature during this time period. Like like she had mutated it. I mean, it was completely screwed up on every level. The X-Men were popular. The 90s were full of extreme with lots of X's in that word. And so you had characters and scenarios that really made no sense at all. This is Sue Storm, which she had the boob window, which again, people have retconned to say, well, that was because Malice was influencing her and it was a very clever storyline about how she was no, it wasn't. It was because they wanted to have a costume where she showed her tits. That is what that was. Let's not pretend we can make it nice as much as we want, but suddenly they gave the Thing a metal helmet where he could be kind of badass. Mr. Fantastic had a vest with a shitload of pouches because those were cool. Somebody came to the conclusion the reason why the X-Men and the Image guys were cool is because Rob Liefeld drew 8,000 pouches on things. So suddenly Mr. Fantastic's got a weird leatherish looking vest with pouches going on. And Sue Storm had her tits out. And again, people said, well, I just did that to kind of explain how her personality was changing because she was under the influence of an evil personality. No, you weren't. You want to show Sue Storm's tits. And other than Namor, nobody wanted that, right? So anyway, during that time period, eventually they get to the point where the universe is so jacked up that they do Heroes Reborn. And they get some of the Image guys, in this case, Rob Liefeld. You get Jim Lee. You get some of the original Image group to come in and do comics for Marvel, and they sucked. From a writing perspective, they like that's not an era anyone remembers fondly. We're trying to kind of retcon that a little bit to say, oh, that was actually a storied moment in comic history. No, it wasn't. Those comics were fucking terrible. Okay. There's some good art in there. Okay, for sure. There are some good artists who contributed to that era, but from a story perspective, like, no, that was good. Let's stop pretending it's good. All right. So in the shop, people were outraged. Okay. Customers are like, okay, I'm getting the popular Marvel creators back, but holy shit, this stuff is awful. Like legit, straight up awful. Like, who is this? Like clearly, I guess Rob Liefeld read Dark Knight Returns and like, let's have a young girl Bucky like that. Like, I mean, the problem was people weren't doing a good job of even hiding their influences. It was just super, super painful, obvious what was going on. All right. So anyway, people were outraged. Customers were outraged. They did not like it. They were annoyed. It was not what anybody wanted. And so that's what was going on. All right. So that was outrage. But the problem with outrage was, it took forever. I mean, what are people going to do? Write a letter 4 months later, Marvel may print it. You could write into Comic News Weekly that exactly like, 1 to 2% of the comic buying audience was actually reading. Like, the outrage was going nowhere. You would hear about it in the shops. And so the retailer would be like, okay, I'll order less for my order 3 months from now. And so outrage had nowhere to go. In 2025, you can like I can pick up the phone, start recording a video in 5 minutes. After the recording, I could upload it, and like you could hear me being pissed off now. I don't need to make sense. I don't need to think long term. I don't need to really convince you of an argument. I can just get you angry right now. And that's where, I mean, the pendulum has swung so far the other direction. Outrage doesn't really need logic anymore. It's just, can I wind you up with something? And the wind you up with something could be like, hey, hey, did you read New Avengers? There's a New Avengers comic. All right. And New Avengers, I mean, it's clearly cash grab because the Thunderbolts was New Avengers. So this is New Avengers, and it's a dysfunctional team. It's got Laura Kinney, Wolverine. They're calling her Wolverine, but clearly she's girl Wolverine. And you got Carnage there, except Carnage is Eddie Brock, and he's just stupid and lame. And then you got Bucky, and you got Black Widow, and you got the Hulk kind of, and you got Clea, because we're gonna girl boss our way into a real Doctor Strange, because we can't put the real Doctor Strange in here, so we're gonna have girl boss magic user in there. And that's what New Avengers is. And in the newest issue, can you believe this? Marvel has Black Widow, the leader, Bucky, who clearly, I mean, like, he was fighting World War II. He's a seasoned vet, and the seasoned vet's like, I can't lead the team. I need a woman to do it. So we got Black Widow's gonna tits her way into leadership. And isn't this another example of how the message is being is promoting chick comics because woke Marvel blah 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 gay. Like that's how outrage works today. And I could say this and it will wind some people up, and then we move on to the next outrage. The challenge with outrage today is that none of it lasts any length of time. I mean, literally, and I don't mean to bring this up again, but you have a guy who's a conservative pundit. That's the wrong way to, that's not the right description. But anyway, conservative guy. That man is shot and killed in front of a bunch of people, assassinated. And the outrage of somebody being murdered in a group is 2 weeks. 2 weeks, right? I mean, I'm not saying people aren't upset about it anymore, but like the duration of that outrage is, I mean, I was in a coffee shop, and there was a number of people today in the Dallas area, right? Dallas. Now, depending on your viewpoint, you either see Texas as deep red and everybody's a racist, or you understand correctly that Dallas is actually more blue than red. Anyway, I'm in a coffee shop, and they're openly joking about Charlie Kirk being murdered. Just, the barista and a couple of customers. They're just having some jokes about it. It's been 2 weeks. That's the duration of outrage now. That's it. So if you're going to play the outrage game, you have to come out with more outrage every day. If you last 24 hours, I mean, look, right now, Heather Antos, the internet's least favorite person, depending on your group, she can say something like, I think all the Avengers should be trans one day. And you might get 24 hours of outrage out of that before people are like, all right, moving on. And then we got to look for the next outrage. The problem with outrage is that the duration is so short that you either have to keep feeding it, and even if you do, people get numb to it. I mean, be honest with me. I mean, honest. So soul search yourself. Look in the mirror, whatever you got to do. How pissed off are you about things these days? If you've been pissed off for a while. I mean, you may have a general negative opinion about some of the comics, but does this stuff really matter to you anymore? My guess is no. My guess is a lot of you you've gone through outrage after outrage after outrage after outrage, and you may still be along for the show because, you're just kind of used to that show, but the reality is none of this sticks anymore. This Gretchen who did the Red Hood story. By the time this video actually goes and airs, does anybody give a shit about that anymore? Is that old news? the crazy part is and it's why I went through all that stuff with Heroes Reborn at the beginning. Previously, when comic fans, and the same thing is true with manga and anime for that matter, when you got angry about something, that anger was something that would last months, sometimes years, because you would go through all the elements of it, you would dissect it. But today we live in a world where that anger is fleeting. It is literally here today, gone tomorrow. And I guess my premise in all this is if you're going to play the outrage game, it's a dumb game. You may get short-term gains off of it, but it's like a cup. And you're gonna put a little bit of water into the cup every day. And that's your outrage meter, right? And you can build people up, build people up, build people up, build people up. But eventually you get to the top of the cup and there's no more room for liquid in there. It's full. And so you're at the place where it's like, well, yeah, I can't shove anything more to that. So the water just starts spilling out the side, right? You can put water into a cup, but eventually you reach the top and the water's pouring out the top of the cup and it can't hold any more. And I think for a lot of people, that's where they get to. You just there isn't more room. You just you can't fit more into that fucking cup. And if you get to that point, I think you're really in the state of, you gotta, at some point we have to come to value. I think the thing that comes after outrage is value. You get people angry about things, but eventually they actually do want things to love and to hold. And with comics, I think the danger we have is we're still playing kind of the outrage game. People are still pissed about this or that, or this creative team, or what this creator said, or, I mean, look, Dan Slott's going to say something fucking stupid at some point. It's going to happen. It happens constantly. It will be fine. And then we're going to get angry about that. And then, I don't know, Bendis will get something. I don't know. He's not having much luck at Marvel, but maybe he gets back there. Who knows? And we're gonna go around in circles, but every time this happens, there's less and less audience. And if you're one of the independent crowdfunders, there's a bunch of you who go on live streams and your brand is being pissed at Marvel, which is cool and all. But if you're trying to sell your comic book, there's a reason why a lot of the Indiegogos and Kickstarters and everything else are not winning. And maybe it just requires somebody to say that really clearly out loud, but these books are making less and less money every time. And it's making less money because there's just not there's not more there. There's no more there. You burn out outrage and then you have nothing less. Outrage is not value. Eventually, outrage needs to transition to value. You get people pissed about something, but eventually they want something new to latch onto and love. And if you don't give that to them, you got nothing. It hollows out. And I think the danger in comics, if I think about what worries me about comics, is we're in danger of just hollowing out this entire business. And then you got nothing left. And that is a bad place to be. And I do think comics is spiraling to that very quickly. In combination with the fans, by the way, everybody's moving to just be pissed off. If you want to bring this to a political perspective, it's the same reason why, I have Republican friends, I have Democrat friends. My Democrat friends right now are like, why aren't more people upset at Trump? It's like, well, since 2015, for a decade, you have been pissed at Trump for everything. And he survived that. So now you've given him armor to the point that he could go out and just kick a baby, and you would have not a couple people, you would have a sizable amount of the population to be like, baby's a dick. I mean, that baby had it coming to him. That's where you're at now. So, outrage is not a brand. You can harness it, you could use it, it can be effective for a short period of time, but eventually outrage eats itself. And what you want to do is you don't want to be on that ship when it starts eating itself. Thanks for listening.